Time for the morning watch.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live in the first watch today. What can be done to avoid domestic violence? And in second watch, what a big media group crisis may mean for everyone else in the business. For our social media question we are asking, if someone told you they were being abused, what would you advise them to do? Share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on the program, but first, as I quote.
All right, good morning. Today's I quote says, "Beware of all enterprises that require new clothes." This one is from Henry David Thoreau.
Okay, is this a riddle? Is this
I don't know.
Is this a proverb? Is this a...
Beware of all enterprises that require new clothes. Well,
Tomorrow.
Yeah, next week.
Good morning, Juka.
Good morning.
The first watch will be back after this break.
Jamaica Central Bank digital currency is now here. Jamdex, no cash, no problem. Step into a future of ease, convenience, and security. Conduct business with your mobile device instantly and without fees. This is how life should be with Jamdex. You get your free. Jamdex are the real free. Use it to buy your store or TV. You can buy your shoes or 3 piece. Central Bank digital currency. No cash, no problem. Jamdex, backed by the Bank of Jamaica.
GT Sound Limited proudly presents The Experience Gratitude Edition with Prodigal Son, Ryan Mark, John Mark Wigan, Alicia Taylor, and more. MCs Nadine Blair and Markland Action Edwards. Tickets at spuropen.com/The Experience 26. Saturday, April 4, Manchester High School. Gates open 5 p.m., showtime 7 p.m. Come with your best praise as GT Sound celebrates 40 years. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch now. The topic of this first watch is what can be done to avoid domestic violence. And this segment, we had the recent sentencing of the husband of Melissa Silvera, former member of Parliament, Joyland Silvera. And whilst domestic violence has been a challenge for many persons globally, worldwide, notwithstanding, many persons will remember this very recent, very tragic, unfortunate situation. And since the sentencing, certainly, there has been talk that, yes, whilst tragically someone lost their life, it is being indicated that, by the counsel of Mr. Silvera, that there was some amount of violence meted out against the now convicted gentleman. Now, It doesn't, of course, excuse what he alleged, what he did. But be that as it may, we want to look at the whole matter of domestic violence and really and truly how to avoid it, not just in a particular situation because of how it's featured in the media, but generally across the board. We have as our guests today Walter J. Davis, a cousin to Melissa Silvera. We also have Ruth Howard, women's rights advocate, the MJ Jamaica program manager. Ruth Howard, Walter J. Davis, good morning to the both of you.
Good morning.
Good
Ruth
morning.
Howard. Yes, good morning. Good morning, sir and madam. Well, with the sentence now delivered, the nation is responding. And this is in relation to, of course, the recent case of Joylan Silvera. What might persons be saying about sentencing, accountability, and just generally speaking, domestic violence? I hope you're not hearing an echo in the line. I think I might be hearing a slight echo. We'll try to address that. But before all of that, Ruth Howard, can you just give us a working definition of domestic violence?
Sure, no problem. So, domestic violence, which is also called domestic abuse, is a pattern of behavior in any relationship that is used to gain or maintain power and control over another individual. And the thing that sets this apart from
Can I
other
can I
forms.
stick up in for a moment, because I'm not trying to slow you down, but some might make the case that beating your children is a form of domestic violence or abuse, then spanking.
Some
I know it's
might be
another
that
discussion,
case.
but
Yeah, and the thing that sets it apart is that it's in the domestic setting, so it's in the home environment. Interestingly, though,
so you think that spanking is domestic abuse as well? Or you
yes,
don't want to answer that
there
one?
are some instances where it is abuse. I'll tell you anecdotes from workshops that I've been a part of, where you hear people talking about how, as children, the level of the beating or the spanking was called murderation. We've heard that term in Jamaica, right? That
Okay.
definitely qualifies as abuse.
So spanking is, you have levels of spanking, that's what you're trying to say.
Yes.
So some spanking is not really abuse. Interesting. Well, I'm not putting words in your mouth. You can either agree or disagree, Ruth Howard. Some forms of spanking are not abuse.
Well, what I'm saying is that spanking can qualify as abuse. That's what I'm saying.
As abuse. Interesting. That's another conversation. But continue your definition of domestic violence. But as you began to define it, that came to my mind about spanking. But continue, Ruth Howard.
Right. So domestic violence is abuse that takes place within the home environment, and it can include individuals who are not necessarily a part of the immediate family within the home, but who are resident at the home. So it can be a cousin, it can be a stepsister, it can be a grandparent, as long as they're in the domestic
in the
environment. Yes.
Yes. And when you say abuse, can it include non-physical abuse, or it is physical?
So that's what I was saying earlier, that interestingly, legislation that should be giving us a definition for domestic violence in Jamaica actually does not have a clear definition. That's one of the things that we've actually been calling for over the years, that there be a clear definition in the legislation, so that when somebody asks, so what is domestic violence? We won't be using the UN definition. We'll be using the definition that literally comes out of the Jamaican legislation. So that is one of the things that we've been calling for.
You notice I asked you for a working definition.
Yes.
I deliberately said working definition. Okay, well, that's another conversation, whether you can, because some of these terms are very difficult to define, which is probably why you're having the challenge with finding a clear-cut definition. Ruth Howard, thank you for that so far. I want to see if we can bring in Mr. Walter J. Davis and Mr. Davis. I'm not even sure how to bring in this discourse because I am going to assume that you're still grieving. Do you have any
It,
comments, Mr.
it's
Davis?
still, yeah, we have gotten to a second place of closure. So we are slowly closing the wounds again. But it's still the sentencing is still fresh. So we're still processing that in our mind
What do you
and
feel
trying to
about the
just
20 years, Mr. Davis, with the prospect that the gentleman, assuming he doesn't appeal anything, that the gentleman could be out in about 13 years or thereabout?
well, we are happy that justice was served in the first instance. However, we would have felt more comfortable with him having the maximum of 25. We were a little bit disappointed that the judge did not come down harder on the mitigating surfaces rather than the aggravating circumstances, and allow him to get the full 25, and of course the eligibility for parole, which I guess under the justice system he's entitled to. But the feeling about it is that based on the egregiousness of the crime, he shouldn't he should not be allowed to be even applicable for parole. But the justice system is the justice system, and we have to go with what it is.
I think what I hear you saying is that you have your personal views on the matter, but you, notwithstanding, respect the decision.
Of course, yes.
Understood. In terms of domestic violence, any comments? Because the more we heard about what happened, we began to hear things that indicated that there was domestic violence. And I'm not pretending to, you know, um, know, more than you would, for instance, know, Mr. Davis. But I don't know if you have any thoughts to share on the whole matter of domestic violence, even generally speaking, sir.
Well, I mean, my whole thought process with domestic violence is that, I mean, as human beings, I know we have a propensity to explode, and not all of us are able to have the emotional intelligence to keep the anger down, to be
That
able to
word
talk about.
emotional intelligence, or those two words, emotional intelligence. Can you develop on that some more as you respond, Mr. Davis? Because
We
I think
are,
a lot of
yeah,
times we are lacking that.
most of us just we don't have that inner ability to stop and to
Yeah.
be rational and to think even at a point of before you get to that stage of anger, where now your judgment becomes very clouded and it's really emotion based and not logic based. It is something that I even tell many of my friends or other persons who I speak to. This is something that you have to practice. It's not a magic wand situation. You have to start to culture yourself to first stop, understand where you're going to go, and understand the risks associated with where you're going to go before you scream, you shout, you start to throw things, or worse, you start to pick up a weapon, because those risks are irreversible in the end. And just generally, as Jamaicans, we don't like to talk things out. We
Mm.
either try to find a way to project it on somebody else, and more than likely the projection comes in a fatality or wounding. So yeah, so we have not been from childhood, many of us in the society, either because of our socio-economic circumstances, the home in which we grew up in, we haven't been taught that this emotional intelligence balance. And listen, not everything needs to have a knife picked up or a gun picked up, or you don't have to tell your neighbor bad word. It is just for you to really just either one, practice walking away, right? Or two, just finding that inner peace in yourself to say, listen, I don't have to deal with this, and there is a way out. And in the case of domestic violence for
One
men and
second,
women,
Mr. Davis. One second, Mr. Davis. You can
uh,
make a note of where you are in the case of
uh,
domestic violence for men and women because we are now upon a break. Ruth Howard, Walter Davis, hold your thoughts, please. Viewers and listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
No cash, no problem. Use Jamdex, Jamaica's central bank digital currency. The tie by Jamdex is
7:15.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch, and the topic is what can be done to avoid domestic violence. Our guests are Walter J. Davis, who is a cousin to Melissa Silvera, in relation to whom there was the recent sentencing of her husband, Joylan Silvera. And we also have Ruth Howard, women's rights advocate, WMW Jamaica program manager. Mr. Davis, just before the break, you had mentioned the matter of domestic violence, men and women. Please continue your thoughts, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, right. So I was saying in our context, men and women, I think a lot of what also happens is that we don't understand the differences between the persona, the hormones of men and women. And we even though we in our relationships, we want to be quote unquote equal. We don't understand that even though we are equal as human beings, we are different, and there are just certain behavioral traits that men are going to exhibit, and certain behavioral traits that women are going to exhibit. And I think from time to time, it is the understanding of both, or the lack of understanding of both, that really drive people to the that point where this is what you're doing, this is what I'm doing, and not understanding. Outside of there being physical violence or anything else, which is absolutely um a no. So I think a lot of times it's the understanding between men and women, and the lack of understanding that really gets you in that emotional rage, and then now allows you to not stop and think, but to pick up a weapon and harm your other person.
Mr. Davis, I want to thank you for your strength in being on this program this morning to even say what you're saying. Of course, our condolences to you and to your entire family. And um, as we would say in Jamaica, you're very strong to be even
Thank
here this morning speaking the way that you are. Ruth Howard, I see where, well, let me ask you, your organization is connected to UN Women. Am I correct, madam?
No, so we're not connected to UN Women, as in we're a part. Well, no, but they are an organization that we have worked with in the past, amongst other organizations like the Government of Canada, like the UNDP, like the UNFPA. Yeah, and there are others.
I was just taking up, just your website. Now, in terms of domestic violence and where we are looking in terms of the worldwide situation in relation to domestic violence, is there anything that you would like us here in Jamaica to take cognizance of vis-a-vis what happens elsewhere? Or is there anything that is happening in other parts of the world that you'd want persons overseas to learn from us here in Jamaica, or both? Because, or going either way rather, because it does appear as if there is a lot more consciousness here in Jamaica, but at the same time, there is still a lot of negative incidences, just one too many. Ruth Howard.
So if we're looking at it from a global perspective, domestic violence I mean, it's an international issue, and it is very much what we call the silent pandemic.
The
Globally, it's
silent what?
the silent pandemic.
Dear God.
Yeah.
Explain,
And
elaborate.
because it is something that is affecting men and women,
I
people
think you're.
hardly talk about it, hence the silent. It's something that people believe is personal or private, because it tends to happen in the domestic setting and in intimate partner relationships. And as a result of that, they're very wary of speaking about it when it's happening to them directly, or they're very wary of intervening when
Why
they're aware
why
that it's
don't they want
happening
to
to
speak
someone
about it when
else.
it's happening to
And this
them
is a
directly?
belief that extends across the wide gamut of institutions and
Understood.
structures.
Understood.
So it's not
But
just
Ruth
citizens
Howard, one
who
second. If
think
you could
this
pause a
way and
second.
operate this way. We also see that pattern of behavior sometimes manifest in the very support and care services who are supposed to help victims. Even sometimes our own law enforcement
Yes.
will carry this belief. I remember during COVID, there was an incident where a woman was experiencing domestic violence
Yes.
and she went to the police station to report it. And
Yes.
she was told to go back home because she had broken curfew to go to the police station to report that she was being beaten and she feared for her life.
Oh Lord.
And I mean, there are instances where it's like we're not clear or we do not fully understand the how critical it is and how serious it is in terms of a life or death. Um, what's the word
Situation.
I'm looking
Yes.
for? In terms of
Yes.
something that can cause someone to die. So globally, this is something that's happening everywhere. In terms of answering your question directly, we
Yes.
do have some best practices in Jamaica that are worth mentioning. And one of them
Yes.
is the domestic violence intervention centers that are in some, not all parishes, but in some parishes across the island. I think they're in 11 parishes at the moment. And in these centers are officers who are specially trained to take reports of domestic violence and to make the necessary referrals. So,
Yes.
one of the things we've heard is that since the implementation of these centers, men, for example, have been more likely to report because it's easier to report to somebody who you know is specially trained and understands the situation than it is to report in a, I guess, a more general setting where there is a likelihood that a person may laugh you out of the station or
Exactly.
ridicule you
Yeah.
or send you back home and say, oh, I just man or woman thing.
Man and
Oh, no,
woman
go and go
thing.
work it out. So
Yes.
that is a best practice that we definitely should be highlighting. And I am personally looking forward to seeing the DVI care centers being implemented across all 14 parishes. And I know that's something the police force is also working towards. In Jamaica, we also have, and this is something that is
When
now
you
all
say
over the
DVI
world,
centers, you
we
mean
also
domestic
have our
violence?
helplines that people can call
Okay.
if they're experiencing domestic
I'm not
violence.
sure if
And we
Ruth
have
Howard is hearing
helplines
me
for both males
when
and
I'm
female callers.
asking her a
And I
question.
think that distinction is important because it's one of the things that I think Walter J said, which is that men experience domestic violence in a different way from women sometimes. And the way our society is built, it can be very difficult and challenging for a woman to report domestic violence, but it can also, in a different way, be difficult for a man to report domestic violence. And so having lines, specific lines dedicated to each sex, the male callers and the female callers, is a best practice as well. I'm also able to say what those numbers are, if you will allow me.
Go ahead. Are
All
you
right,
hearing me,
sure.
Ruth Howard?
So for
Go ahead.
female callers, the number is 876-553-0372. And for male callers, the number is 876-553-0387. Persons who need assistance can also call
Repeat
888
both number.
Protect.
Repeat both
That's
numbers. Repeat
888
both numbers, please. Repeat both numbers, please.
770-8328.
Repeat both numbers,
Those are
please.
numbers that
Or
people can call.
repeat the
Now, if
first
we're
number
also
again.
talking about from a cultural
I don't think Ruth
perspective,
Howard is hearing
I
me
think
sometimes.
one of the things that it will be very important for us to keep in mind and to make very strategic and strong interventions around, especially following a case like the Silvera case, is that we really need to work on changing harmful attitudes and norms because violence in general is a problem in Jamaica. And a huge part of that is how we do conflict resolution. And that's something that Walter J also raised. We have to learn to teach respect, a very important word. We have to learn to teach consent. We have to learn to teach things like emotional regulation from childhood. So people have to learn how to walk it out, not fight it out, which is a slogan I remember from when I was in primary school. Peace Day, PALS, Peace and Love in Schools, that program, they used to teach us in little jingles, walk it out, don't fight it out, don't curse it out, things like that. I think we have to, I know those things still exist, but I think they need to be strengthened and expanded so that we learn how to properly deal with conflict as a society, and how to learn that violence is not the answer, is not an answer when we are in conflicting situations. And then when we're talking about the domestic violence piece, we have to also look at the power dynamics at play. And we have to be very careful about how we're feeding into very negative beliefs about these power dynamics. So, for example, in an intimate partner relationship between a male and a female, we have to be careful that we're not encouraging the male to believe that he is entitled to the female, or is entitled to the female's body, and that if she refuses him, it is a form of disrespect that should then be met with violence. We have to be careful to teach the female that the male body is also not a site of violence, and therefore you can't just, and this is something we have to even teach our schoolgirls, you can't just be slapping the boys, you can't just be, hitting them willy-nilly or causing them pain from a belief that they will not retaliate. So we have to be teaching both parties how to be respectful and how to cultivate healthy relationships built on mutual consent, mutual respect, and also equality.
Ruth Howard, I'm not sure if you were always hearing me when I was interjecting. Can you repeat the first number that the females can call, please?
Sorry, should I continue?
Can you repeat the first number that the female should call? I don't think she's hearing me, announcer, Jakal Dyer, or whoever else might be the producer. I'm not too sure what is the challenge. Can she be asked to repeat? Whoever has the ear of Ruth Howard at the moment, I don't know, through whatever device. Can she repeat the number that the females are to call, please? Is she hearing me? It appears as if she's not hearing me. Maybe we can have that resolved afterwards. Walter J. Davis, before we wrap this morning, I would like to know what are your final or closing thoughts, if any, because a lot of this has a lot to do with this discussion, I would say. We can safely say is following up on the heels of the sentencing of Jordan Silvera. Walter J. Davis.
My wish is really that we get to a stage where we recognize that there have been too many incidences, too many fatalities, and just as a people for us to just settle our emotions, and we have to now gradually start to learn in a different way. We have to open our minds and learn that we need to follow the examples of the past, and we need to just ensure that we, as human beings, we take the temperature down. Again, not everything has to be at a contentious stage where it is going to be that you're picking up a knife or going, or you're in somebody's face. We have to slow it down. We have to stop. We have to think that, listen, this is not worth me getting angry. This is not worth me participating in. What are the risks of me going forward, and what are the risks of me stepping back? And once you get to that place of thought, I think more of us will start to calm down, and more of us will start to use that emotional intelligence, and we will start to look and say, hey, I'm going to walk away from this, ultimately to walk away from the situation, to make your mental health in a better place, and to protect you. Walking away and using emotional intelligence protects us as people from the liabilities ahead. So I want us as Jamaicans to get to that stage. I know sometimes culturally, because some of us are very aggressive by nature, and Jamaicans we're very we're very confident and strident, and that boils over into aggression sometimes. But we just need to now start to slow it down, coach ourselves into slow it down, stop, think, speak, and speak firmly but not angrily, and we just start to take the temperature down, and start to mentally heal ourselves, and we will see reductions in this form of violence.
Yes, I mean, Ruth Howard said a couple of things I was hoping to engage her on.
Yes, she was excellent.
Whilst the Bible does say that husbands and wives are entitled to each other's bodies, it doesn't condone violence where there is refusal on either
Yes.
side. I have been given some numbers by the producer to announce, if I could do that quickly. Report child abuse, 211, 24 hours. No excuse for abuse. Female callers can call 876-553-0372. Female callers again can call 876-553-0372. Male callers can call 876-553-0387. I'll repeat that. Male callers can call 876-553-0387. And there is also 888 Protect, 888-777-8328. That is 888-777-8328. Madam Producer Kathy Gale, thank you for that. We have to leave the discussion there. Ruth Howard and Walter J. Davis, thank you so much for your time and for your thoughts. Viewers and listeners, we'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Start your journey with a JN Small Business Loan with small business loans as little as $10,000 and up to $4 million. The time by JN Small Business Loan is
7:31.
This is Flow, Jamaica's fastest mobile network, as verified by Ookla. It's the result of a complete network rebuild, with more power backup to reduce outages and satellite backup for greater mobile stability. You can even make regular calls using Wi-Fi. Welcome to our new era of connectivity, and we're not stopping there. This is Flow, Jamaica's network.
Mama work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 Jane Bank savings plan, you know. I further my education and I make mama proud.
Save so you can make the par, travel far, graduate like a star.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here in the Gleaner, Cuban exit backup plan. The Ministry of Health and Wellness is making a plea for the public's patience and cooperation as it assesses the island-wide impact and implements contingencies to mitigate disruptions caused by the impending severance of ties with Cuban health professionals providing their services in Jamaica. And that story continues. We have also in the Gleaner, witness in Klansman gang trial recounts finding friend shot on veranda. We turn now to the Observer. Jamaica getting $47 million in help to fight breast cancer. And more of that story at page 10 of the Daily Observer. We also have here on the front page of the Daily Observer, the main feature, exploring other options. Cuban medical personnel being offered stay options, says Tufton. That story by Jerome Williams. Those and many other stories in both of Jamaica's daily newspapers. Coming up next, we'll read for you or share with you some of the feedback from our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp question, which is, if someone told you they were being abused, what would you advise them to do? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
You see me? He love my food and my ketchup run the flavor in so many ways. Miss Flowers, I want to turn up your food, sir.
My secret ingredient, calcium ketchup, run the flavor.
Cal's ketchup, run the flavor. Ha ha! Richer, thicker, and more affordable. Chicken boss, war on the flavor.
Cal's tomato ketchup.
Cal's tomato ketchup, run the flavor. Richer, thicker, and more affordable.
When you're enjoying life, critical illness is one of the last things on your mind. But the risk is real. Critical illness has many faces. Young and old, male and female are being affected. Be prepared with critical illness insurance from Sagicor Life. It gives you financial protection when you need it most, with a 25% payout on early diagnosis of non-invasive cancer. Protect what matters. Speak to a Sagicor Life advisor or purchase online at elife.sagicorjamaica.com.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Now for your responses to our social media question. If someone told you they were being abused, what would you advise them to do, Jakal?
All right, so we have some responses on the WhatsApp line. Steph from Portmore says, good morning. I'm a living testament. I've been to the police many times. They say, go home to your husband. He's a nice man. You are the problem. I had to help myself. Then we have, really sorry to hear that, Steph. Edna, we have a voice from Edna. Let's hear from her.
Good morning. Morning, Wash. Good morning, the one listeners and staff. If someone should come to me and tell me that they are abused, I would have to lend a listening ears. Then, depends on the nature of the abuse, I would send them to where they can get help, or even take them to where they can get help. Depends. It all depends on the nature of the abuse. I would point them to the various entities where they can get help.
All right, thank you, Edna. And then we have Cherry. Cherry in Spanish Town says, I would advise them to get help and if possible, get out. Don't be afraid or ashamed to talk about it. No one should be subjected to abuse of any form. Those are our responses.
Yes, and get out as quickly as possible. Run for your life. Thank you, Jakal, for those comments. Run for your life. We move right into the second watch. Now, with advertisers increasingly chasing places to, showcase products and services, and in doing so increasingly on social media. What does that say for what we would like to now call traditional media outlets? And if you have large media houses, as it were, having challenges with, revenue because of the squeezing advertising dollar, what does that really say? And does it even have implications for things such as, press freedom and the information being showcased or being shown on the airwaves, on the internet, in the various platforms, as the case may be? Our topic, of course, in this second watch is what a big media group crisis may mean for everyone else in the business. Our guest for this segment, we have Hilton Dennis, former Chief Executive Officer and Vice President, Press Association of Jamaica. He's also an author and a consultant, and I would dare to say that he is my friend. Mr. Dennis, good morning. Hilton Dennis? I think we have lost Mr. Dennis, unfortunately. He's now with us. Hilton Dennis. Hilton, sir, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Are you able to see me or hear me?
Yeah, I am seeing you, although I'm not getting a clear view from the angle at which I'm sitting, but yes, I'm seeing you. You're on screen, man, don't worry, but the angle at which you are at, I'm not seeing you fully, but I'm seeing you. Yes, I can see you. Yes.
Yeah, well, is it radio on TV or radio?
You are on YouTube, sir. You are on YouTube as well as on radio, sir.
I see.
Radio land and YouTube land.
All right.
So you are being featured worldwide, Mr. Dennis. Good morning. I haven't seen you in a long time. Too long.
Good morning, Stokeley. Too long, but I'm not there, right? I'm on the other side.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm getting a better view of you now, sir.
So,
All right. So,
on your side, I give you a circle.
All right. Not a problem. Let me know when you're in town, sir.
Yeah,
Mr. Dennis, what does the financial and restricting of what's going on in the media space? Let's just start there. Newspapers, local radio, community newspapers, national newspapers, digital startups. We are hearing all sorts of stories about media houses having challenges, serious financial challenges and struggles. Where's all this going, Mr. Dennis? Because the newspaper business was always considered to be a safe business, but we know in recent decades that has been changing.
Yeah, well, okay. The media is correcting itself naturally. It's a perfect correction. I am not alarmed. I am not perturbed. If you're in business, you must understand how to transition. You must understand how to adjust. You must understand how to adapt. You must understand what is a rival versus what is something to complement or improve your operations. So we have a lot of gaps in those areas. In Jamaica, right? If we do specific to Jamaica, globally, I think other countries have conformed, right? But in Jamaica, we have a lot of gaps. And for me, it starts at the source of the educated professionals in media, which would be the media and communications training institutions. All right.
You mean the Carimax of this world?
The Carimax and the NCUs, people have a way of being obstinate. Academics have a way of
You don't think the training institutions are adapting to the new media landscape?
Either they don't understand or, they're just stuck in rote, right? Because there are people who can tell them and can show them why, they need to take a different
so you think people are being trained to work in traditional media when now we are mostly social media or increasingly social media, sir?
People are being trained to work in traditional media or to see social media as a game changer. We use the word disruptive now in a positive way, but to see social media as something ruining traditional media, which it never was, never will be, never intended to be, right? But what it does, it shows up where traditional media has deficiencies, right? So I think what's happening now is a perfect correction.
Okay. What's happening now is a perfect correction. What do you mean by what's happening now is a perfect correction? Explain that.
All right, because what I was given as the basis of the conversation we are having is that media is crumbling. I'm putting it in my words. Media is crumbling. What's responsible for that? How do we address?
Do you think media is crumbling? Do you think media is crumbling?
No, media isn't crumbling.
Okay.
As I said, it's a correction that is taking place.
Okay.
I mean, who has a right to be in media or to own media more than anybody else? If you can't take the heat in the kitchen, you get out of the kitchen, right? Putting sentiment aside, if you don't understand how to guard a legacy, right? When you talk about an institution that has existed from before plantation slavery ended in Jamaica, right? And has weathered all kinds of storms, challenges, changes in technology, changes in audience, and existed profitably for more than 100 years. And then all of a sudden, a technological factor comes up and you fall apart. That's not the reason why you're falling apart.
Dennis, only because of time, can you hold that thought for a second? Because we're now upon break. Viewers and listeners, please stay with us. Very interesting discussion. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Start your day informed, alert, and ahead of the curve. Join us at 6:30 a.m. for the latest breaking news, weather updates, and everything you need to know. Clear, concise, connected. It's your morning news right here on Love 101 FM, the family station. On Mondays, the morning news is brought to you by the Ministry of National Security Live Good Anti-Violence Campaign.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch having a very important and interesting discussion with Hilton Dennis, former Chief Executive Officer and Vice President, Press Association of Jamaica, author and consultant. The topic is what a big media group crisis may mean for everyone else in the business. Hilton Dennis, of course, you're going to continue this with you, sir.
Yeah.
It's
So
a correction. It is a correction.
We're a crisis. You know, you say what a big media group crisis. There isn't a crisis in media. There's a crisis in a media group. You know, so we can't inflate it and project it on the rest of media. Generally, there's a crisis in a media group. You know, that can be addressed. Is being addressed how they choose to address it by contraction. You know, I was told that we're not going to be specific in terms of names, but Jamaica is a small country. I won't call any names still, but we know, you know, what we're talking about. And I happen to sit at a place where, you know, a lot of that history, that archival history, I am aware of, right? When your station got its license, its broadcast license, it was restricted in terms of what would make it viable. You had to find money. The churches, the religious organizations, you had to find the money to put in the infrastructure to operate the station. You could not take advertising. And you know why that was? Because big media that we are now concerned about, right, had more political leverage to make those who grant the license, right, make that exception and put that sort of inequitable factor into giving a religious broadcast license. And there are still other stations that are under that restriction. It's hard to be viable, right? So putting technology aside,
we take
you have now broken out of that. You are now, you know, the restriction is removed for you. And you're, because you were able to survive until the change occurred, right? So sometimes the size of media is a problem, right? Because of how that size and that power is leveraged. So we're coming from a stage where you had one free-to-air television station, right? You had one private free radio station, major radio station, and all the others controlled by government. Government controlled that free-to-air television station at the time, by the way. And where the print media, newspaper, was the dominant media, right? So we're coming from that stage. Then I was at the hearings when JBC was being divested, the government-owned Jamaica Broadcasting Corporation that has created the opportunity for Love FM and all the others, right, to come into the landscape. And the persons who are now leading big media that we are concerned about, there was an insistence on excluding them, right, from expanding into other type of media. If they were in radio, let them stay there. If they were in newspaper, let them stay. Don't give them TV, don't give them, right? But somehow, right, things got a little mixed up and they end up owning all the major media, right? And consolidating and contracting and merger. Jamaica created a fair trading commission to protect competition and prevent collusion, right? And all of that was, contradicted by what we have seen. You can't have one media group. What is good for one?
I'm not aware of any collusion, but
No, the Fair Trading Commission was created to prevent collusion.
Okay.
So I'm not talking about anybody colluding. I'm saying what existed for a purpose. Okay. And then now you see one media group owning the 4 major radio stations, the major newspaper, the free-to-air television, subscriber television. That is a contradiction of where we wanted media to go. We wanted competition. I've seen good radio stations, right, that have gone under or that came under different ownership and, now are being paused or pulled from the air. When the expertise that ran one station in particular made it a viable station, which is why it was targeted for takeover and control. And then you take over and control. It was viable when everybody was doing whatever they wanted to do and favoring social media. And it was doing its thing and doing it well, right? And the person who got it there and built it there can't even get a license to operate radio, right? Again, because of the leverage of big media, right? To decide, or influence who gets license and who doesn't get license. So sometimes, you see some correction taking place and you understand that.
Hilton, Dennis, someone might say that you're throwing stones and saying that some
Well, you
companies
said
are
don't call
using...
names. I have knowledge. I speak
that's
from
fine.
knowledge.
Well, some people
Speak
might
from
argue that you're using your knowledge to throw stones.
Well,
and
I wouldn't
your
throw
knowledge
stones
might
if I
not be
was
accurate. Well, how do you respond to that if someone says
What
your
some
knowledge is
people might say I'm throwing stones and what? And it might not be accurate.
Yeah.
But I'm speaking from knowledge and you say it might not be accurate. I'm speaking from knowledge. I'm speaking from involvement. I'm speaking from, you understand? I'm very intimately acquainted with media. Right?
I know that, Hilton. I know that.
Right.
I know
So
that.
some people cannot say I'm speaking, I'm throwing. I don't need to throw stone when it comes to
The
media.
fact that you're intimately knowledge
When
of
it comes to
media,
media in Jamaica, I
accurate.
don't need to throw stones, Stokeley. When it comes, let me say it again. When it comes to media in Jamaica, I don't need to throw stones.
Well,
right?
I withdraw the term
I've been
throwing
called a
stones.
bit outlier
How
by
are you sure
one
that what
manager.
you said is accurate?
What?
How are you sure that what you said is accurate? That big media using leverage to do some of the things you said on the program this morning.
Big media, big anything has leverage. Big anything has leverage. Okay? Because I have seen situations where people go for licenses in different industries in Jamaica.
Yeah.
They go for licenses. They advocate for opening up competition. And when they get the license, when the competition is opened up so that they could get in, then they then say the market is not big enough to accommodate so many players. And they advocate for, closing of the thing. They don't grant any more licenses or what have you, because they are at a comfort level where they now see things differently. They wanted the license to get in, and then they said the market is not big enough to accommodate competition.
I want to raise this with you, Hilton, Dennis. The advertising pie is something we hear a lot about. And you will hear that the advertising pie is not large enough to be spread across so many media houses. Any comments on that?
Yeah, but guess what? Who decides which media house is entitled to a slice of that pie and which is not? If people just by throwing up that argument alone tells you what is in the intention of people, what is in their minds, and what they will do in terms of advocacy to keep others out. If there is a pie and you want a slice of it, or you want a big enough slice of it, you must compete for it. You must be appealing enough in order to get that slice. You don't talk about it being too small to be shared up. So if a small media, as I said, I've seen small media houses, right? When you look at the ratings, how the ratings changed, right? Big three, small acts. I have seen small media houses topple big ones in the ratings, all right? Or eat away at their market share. Why? Because they strategize to do so. Okay, so you don't talk about the pie being smaller. They want a bigger slice of the pie. They did what they had to do to get a bigger slice of the pie, right? And if you go out of business because you are not doing the right things, then so be it. Another one bites the dust. Right? That's just the dynamism of the space.
I want to raise this one because I'm seeing the time, never enough time on the morning watch, Hilton. The impact of social media. I'm not sure if you have delved into that enough. The impact of
Yeah,
social
I've
media.
mentioned it.
I know, but enough. In other words, a lot of persons nowadays are not turning on the television anymore. I know people who don't watch television the way that people used to watch television. It's their phones and their laptops and whatever they have in their hand, whichever device is in their hand. And people are getting news from their friends on social media platforms. And then they might check traditional media just in case, but they get it literally on their phone. Any thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, well, you told me that we are on YouTube, right? That's
exactly.
adaptation. Adaptation. Okay. If when you're training people, you don't train them into a mindset that if you can't beat them, join them. You train them into a mindset that this thing has come to conquer you, or this thing has come to replace you, or this thing now is a threat, an existential threat. Social media is not an existential threat of traditional media, but that is a mindset that has been cultivated for too long and is now consuming big media in particular, right? Social media, people use the term integration and they don't understand what it means, right? Integration is not merely appearing on social media platforms, right? But having social media being part of your operation of how you do what you do, because that is what it is for. So it can be a rival.
Do you think that part of the challenge? I know I'm interjecting. Interjecting, Mr. Dennis, but only because of time. Do you think there's a level of some persons who are in quote unquote big media are just a little bit annoyed or concerned that any person, any so-called random person with a phone can literally create media, can operate as a media personality, can operate almost as if they're a media host with just a couple devices because of the advance of technology.
Yeah, it's ignorance that causes that annoyance because media operates on the basis of talent. Okay,
exactly. Yes.
What you're saying, your appeal is based on the talent that you employ, that you attract. So these people should not have had to take up their phone or whatever and become content creators, abstract content creators. Doing their thing away from you, from what you were
some
doing.
of them actually carry news, some of them carry news items in their own style.
Independent. They are independent.
News. They're
independent and they have other platforms. You would not give them your platform and guide them into it the way that you want them to operate in it. What others have given them the platform and they are independent. And then you see that as rivalry and competition, when really you should have understood how to forge the partnership, right? These platforms, why are the media houses able to be on YouTube and Instagram and that? I mean, they are going on the platform independently of these content creators that they say are eating into their business. They are
only because of time. Give us some final thoughts in a couple of seconds. I think I'm getting a signal.
Final thoughts?
Yes.
The media is correcting itself. As I started, as I said, media, like any other industry, media is correcting itself. And if the solution, the answer that big media has is contraction, then so be it. Let them contract. Any gap that they leave will be filled. Traditional media is not dying. Traditional media is not threatened. Okay? Traditional media is not dying, is not threatened. Media is correcting itself. And those who cannot conform, will have to just clear the space and let others fill the gap.
Hilton Dennis, we might have to leave it there today only because of time, because I'm getting a signal, sir. Hilton Dennis, as usual, always great speaking with you and hearing your thoughts, sir.
Always a pleasure to join.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you so much. And thank you, viewers and listeners, for being with us today. Visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. And of course, download our Love 101 app and stay connected to us. The family station, Love 101 FM, the number one gospel station in Jamaica. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guests. Join me tomorrow as I look at other issues of the day. I am Stokeley, Marshall, handing back to Love in the Morning with Jokal.
For all your supermarket